All right, so the last thing we want to do is update our graphics. Now, these are not going to be the 100% final graphics, but they're a good start, and then we can use these later on or build off of them. But I kind of want to introduce you to creating kind of the graphics. Now, if you have Photoshop, you can use Photoshop, but if you don't have Photoshop, there's actually a nice program. It might even be a little bit easier. You'll have less tools to use, but the tools are more directed towards creating pixel art. You can use whatever art form you want. In fact, I even suggest not using this. Like, find something else that works good. But if you want, particularly for those of you that are not comfortable in your art skills, if you go onto my website here, so you go to class 3, the class that we're currently on. If you scroll down the bottom, I guess just before the bottom, right here, we can use this pixel program. Okay, so I have a link to it. You can click on this, and basically I want you to make these graphics, or just go to piscolapp.com, and then we can just click on create sprite, and voila, you'll end up with this. Okay, so I'm going to real briefly kind of go over it, but really you can kind of explore it and figure it out. That's really what I kind of want you to do. Hopefully at this point, this should be relatively easy in comparison to other stuff that you would be creating. Okay, so we have basically just the regular old pen tool, paint bucket, vertical mirror, don't really need that. Stroke tool, so stroke just draws a line, right? So this will just draw the pixels. Obviously there's an eraser, draws a rectangle. You get the idea, right? So there's a magic wand. This is kind of nice. It does another thing. So I'm just going to quickly draw, like, let's say my little cone guy. So I'm just going to click on here, choose black, draw this. So I'm gonna, let me see, can I back up? I'm just gonna use my little scroll wheel here. Let's go back up a little bit, and I want to generally fill the shape. So I'm just gonna do my little guy here, like so, right? And then we'll just go like to and then across to right? So we'll say that that looks like that. Oh, and then needs feet. So here's 1 foot, and here's another foot, and I'll do the arms after. Okay, so then what I want to do is just fill in with the color. Click on this. I'll find the color that I want. Let's say that and that. It's great. Then we need his white color here. I'll just go ahead and use the regular old what have you. Oops, went a little too far on that one. Okay, great. And then you'll see that as you make it, it actually will store your colors here as you create them. So you can go back and, use them. So, which is pretty awesome. So we'll go like this. All right. And I've made my cone guy. Now you can see it right here, which is pretty sweet. Now there are other tools in this too, which are pretty neat. So they have this dithering tool. So if I click on that and let's say do this, it will do a halfway between, like it'll do every other one between your foreground and midground. So for instance, if I was trying to do this, I could grab, like, I'll say the brush, I'll hold Alt. If you hover over, it actually tells you what the hotkeys are. At least it should. Okay, it doesn't do it on the current one, but if you hover over them, if it has special hotkeys. But if I hold Alt and click, there's also an eyedropper, and click on it, it will make that my color. And then what I'll do is I'll click on this color, and I'll just kind of do a darker version of it. And you'll see, oops, hang on a second. You'll see when I paint with this now, oops, sorry, I gotta grab the dithering tool. It will do every other one, right? So does it have other options? I don't even know. That one's kind of neat. So you can kind of shade that way if that's the kind of style you want. They also have this lighten and darken. So what you do is select the, it doesn't really matter, but if you just click, it will lighten an area. So I can go like this, and you can see it's lightening. And if I hold Control, it will darken, right? So, and it's somewhat random. You can also change the size of your brush here. Okay. And if I do Shift, it'll be one solid color. So you notice that, like, see how it's sort of sporadic here? If you hold Shift when you do your brushing, it will stay one color. I don't hold Shift there, so see? So if I do Control and Shift, it'll stay one solid color. So if you need to do that, you can do that as well. So that these two tools are kind of handy, kind of a weird one-off thing. Yada, yada, yada. There's some like transform things here if you need to use these. Hopefully you get the idea. Now, the way that it works, it's actually meant to do animation, but which we'll use later. But for right now, what I'm going to do is add another frame. And then what it does, it'll allow me to draw my previous frame. And if I click on this, it'll actually show me the wireframe of my previous frame, and it actually shows the animation up here. And you can change the frame right here. So let's go back to 0. So it will show me now my current one. Okay, but then what I would want to do next is draw my next picture. So what else do I need? Oh, I wanted to do points. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to do like a yellow coin here. So I guess we'll go like this, and then this way it'll draw a yellow coin. Boom, there's one yellow coin. You probably want to center it. So I guess we'll go like this, and then I think it's shift, right? Yeah, hold shift, and I'm just going to try and center it as best I can. Still not center. I'm really good at this. Okay. Good, so that'd be my coin. Then I'll click the next one, and then I need to do a heart. So we'll just do like this, and then draw a heart. Right, we'll just use the fill here. Okay, makes sense. You would go down the line and make all of your items, okay? Then, once you've made all of them, what you're going to want to do is you're going to click on, where are you? Right here, save. So you can create an account, and I suggest that it's free. This doesn't cost anything. Later on, you're probably going to want to do that, because what it'll do is it actually will store all of the things that you've created on the cloud, and then you have access to all of them, and it stays in its native format. What I want to do, though, is actually export this. And what you can do is you can determine the resolution. So if you wanted to go, I probably should have done that to begin with. If I wanted to go to a higher resolution, so right now it's using this, I could change the background. So you could choose one that works better. I like the dark. Grid, tile mode, that's all fine. Where is resize? So if I wanted to make it so that it wasn't, right now it's 32 by 32, you could do 64 by 64, right? And then resize, and it'll resize everything to that size. So you'd want to do that before you started drawing. So if you want to do a higher resolution pieces, like you want to do the 64 instead, just make sure you resize it here. Can I undo that? I wonder if it will. Oh, it does. Okay. And I can resize the canvas content too. So now you'll see that it got resized, but there's actually, there's actually more pixels in there. So it's higher resolution. Anyway, so probably want to do that first for this. So explore all these things. We want to export this. And so what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, the resolution 64 by 64, which is obviously what it is. Scale is 1. We want to do, it probably will have GIF, because it'll create an animated GIF for you, which is neat, but we don't need that. We want to do PNG, and it'll actually make a sprite sheet for us. And then you can choose. So do you want to do, depending on how many you have here, you could do 3 columns, and then it'll show 2 rows. I could do 1 column, and then it shows 3 rows. It depends how many drawings you have. I only have 3, so that's as max as it's going to do. And then to download it, I would just click on download, and then it will save it as a picture. It'll be right here, and then you can grab it. Now when you're done, you're going to end up with, let me put this onto my half screen here, click this off. You're going to end up with something like this. So I'm just going to double click on it so you can see it. And I'll probably have to zoom in because it's kind of small. All right. So I would like you to make your player character, a health item, a score item, an enemy, which we're not going to use yet, but we will use, I think, next week, a platform item, and then the victory item. So in my case, I'm just doing a door. Okay. So these 6 things will probably be fine. You're gonna have more time to make graphics later on, but this is just kind of the start of it. Okay. All right. Click that off. Okay. So once you've made them, you're going to download them. You'll have this. And then what I want you to do is inside of here. So you're going to want to spend a lot of time and make it look pretty and do whatever it is you want to do in there, or whatever other program you want to use. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to right click, create folder, and I'm going to call it sprites. Okay. So sprites basically is just one picture with all of your images on it. So if this contained animation, it would be the same cone guide, but it'd be every frame of the animation. And then I'm just going to drag this guy right into here, and it's going to import it. Okay. So now if I click on it, you'll see we have our picture. So after you import it, you want to click on it, and then we want to change some options in here. So first things first, sprite mode, I want it to be multiple, because it's not one single picture, it's multiple pictures on one sheet. Pixels per unit, you want it to be the same size. Basically, it's how many pixels are going to be in each one of these squares, okay? So if you're doing pixel stuff, you generally want it to be the same size as what you made. So I did this one at 32, so I'm going to say 32 pixels. So it means there'll be 32 pixels in a square, right? So this is like PPI, right? And then we're going to go down here, and because I'm doing pixel art, I want to take my filter mode, and I want to change it to point no filter. So this basically means like if it gets scaled or does whatever, it's going to blur it to smooth it out. And in this case, it's definitely going to be smoothed out because it's going to appear larger than what it actually is in the game. But if I do point no filter, it'll make it perfectly without any smoothing, okay? Then you can just go down here, hit apply. That'll apply the settings. And then we want to click on the sprite editor right here in order to adjust them, okay? Now, because we did it in that program, which is pretty sweet, we can go ahead and just go to slice. And if you didn't do it in there, if you did it where you just have a bunch of just pictures and they're all different sizes, which is totally fine, you want to go to slice and you just want to do automatic and hit slice. And it's automatically going to cut each one of them to the scale of what they are. Now I'm doing pixel art, so it's going to be like tile based, which means each one of these should be perfectly fit inside of its square. So instead, I'm going to do it by cell count. And I have, 3 columns and 2 rows. So C will be 2 and rows will be 3. And I did that backwards. 3 and 2. And then I'll hit slice. And it's going to cut them into these perfect things. And that's the same that I made when I made my picture. And then I'll hit slice. Then I'll hit apply. Great. And then you can close out of it. Now what you're going to see is if I click on this little arrow, it's actually going to show me each one of my individual pictures. And I can now attach those to my items up here. So I can go to player. I can select player here. And you can see right now it's using the check mark. You can do it a couple different ways. We'll do it this way to start with. I'm going to grab this, drag it up there, and drop it. I need to change the color now back to white. Oops. So that it doesn't affect it. And then we'll just click off of there. And I'm going to change my scale down to 1, 1, 1, right? Because that's the actual scale it should be. And then I also am going to need to change some of these other things here as well. So my rigid body, that's Control plus. Oh, sorry. Used to working in other programs. Okay. I need to change the rigid body of my character. So I'm going to make this fit my person. This is the one. This is the thing that makes contact with the ground and the environment around it. We'll hit good. Okay. Now what we're going to do is go to the ground check script, and you can see that's definitely got to get changed. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that that is touching the ground, so it's beyond his collision box. Great. Okay, let's click on him. Good, that's below it. And then the player pickup script is, our player pickup thing is definitely too small, so we're just going to make it sure it's bigger. Make sure it's bigger than the player. And we'll just go up 2. Okay. All right, so that way it's outside of his box, so it'll be sure to grab it. Great, so that one's done. Now what we can do is keep doing that, sorry. Let's scroll out. We can do that with the rest of the stuff. So I'm going to go to, let's say, my point here. And instead of circle, I can also do it by clicking on this. Now you're going to see we have the original things that we had options, but now we have our artwork in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click on this. You can do it the same. I'm just showing you there's multiple ways. Make this white so it's the actual color it's supposed to be, although it was already yellow. And I'm going to change my scale to 1 by 1 by 1. Okay. And I'm going to, in here, just manually scale it now to the size that I want. So we'll have it be a little bit smaller. We'll say like that. Okay. And then you can see the collider for it's too large. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the size here and squeeze, and the size here and squeeze. Or you can just click on this. And then where's the offset? Offset, and just move it over a little. There. Close enough. Okay. Call that good. Great. Then we just do the same thing with life. So again, I can just drag this one on there. You can do it any number of ways. That looks fine. We can put this back to white so it's the actual color. Come on. There we go. Although it doesn't change much because it was already kind of close. This one I'll just go ahead and pull this in so it fits in the box. And I think the scale of that is probably fine as well. Great. So that's in there. And then we need to change the door here. So I'm going to grab the door and let's just throw this guy in there instead. It's going to be not the right scale. So I'm just going to go ahead and start at 1 by 1 by 1. So it starts correctly, and then we'll scale it up to the door size. Put it over here a little bit more. And then I'm going to go ahead and just make sure, put it to white so it's the actual color. And we will adjust this a little bit. So this is way too wide. And then let's offset it like that. Okay, so that's good. Okay, and now it's the platforms. Okay, so that's the last thing. So to do that, the easiest way is I could do a couple things. I could go create 2D sprite, blah, blah, blah. Or you can literally just drag it in there and it will just plop it in there and automatically know that it's a sprite. Okay, and I'm just going to call this a let's start with capital P. Platform. Great. That looks good. And it's 1111. Everything looks fine and dandy. So, but if you look, this isn't big enough for my platform. So what I'm going to do is duplicate it. So Control D. So I have 3 of them now. Okay. I'm going to take one and I need to move it over roughly. It should be -1 unit. And then I'll take the other one and do +1 unit, because each one of these is 1 unit wide. So if I go 1 unit to the right and 1 unit to the left, that'll end up with 3 in a row. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to group these together as one platform. And go here, create empty. And we'll just call this platform underscore group. Great. I'm going to grab these guys, and then I am just going to zero out. Oh, sorry. We're going to grab these guys, and then I'm going to parent them to this. So I just grab all 3 and drop them in there. Now they're part of this, but you see they're offset from the position of this. So what I'm going to do is grab all 3 of them, and then I'm going to zero out the Y's, which will move them down so that they're closer to where this is. Okay, great. Now what I want to do is I'm going to add a component, Physics 2D, Box Collider 2D, and we'll change the scale of it. And that just allows us to collide with this, right? Just like these platforms have that. And I'm doing on the group, so it does the whole thing as a whole. And the other thing I need to do is make this also the ground. Again, the group, not the items underneath. And then we can take these guys and get rid of them. And then I'll make sure I grab the group here. Move this down, Control D, move it over, Control D, move it over. Take this, move this over here. Take that, move that over here. And if we play the game, I need to make more platforms, but if we play the game, you're going to see that we will have a game that now it looks a little bit closer to a video game, and I gained a life, and I gained, oops, still got to adjust that jumping. And yay, we won. Okay, so super awesome sauce. So that is basically how we're going to do it. Now, a lot of this is going to be done differently. So we're actually going to probably get rid of a bunch of this, but at least it's the start of the graphics. You should get an idea of what you want to make. And it looks a little bit better overall. All right. So good luck with that.